Hi, I'm professional communication skills coach Dan O'Connor. In this video, you'll discover 4 things you need to stop saying at work because if you continue using them,
you're doomed.
And you'll learn what to say instead, power phrases for the workplace that will increase your perceived value at work and change the way people see you so that this doesn't happen to you. Hi, Dan. Why don't you have a seat?
Thanks.
Yeah, Dan, the reason I called you in here today is because I'm concerned. Well, I've been talking to some of your coworkers lately. They brought some things to my attention. I had a couple of reports, and frankly, to sum it up, you're the problem.
What?
Dan, what's been going on? What the fuck? Here are 4 of the most common things that people say that are sabotaging their success. Number 1, I'd like you to think about when it comes time for you to give your opinion. Whether you're in a brainstorming session, whether you simply see something that you believe needs to be addressed, whether somebody asks your opinion, what do you say when it's time for you to speak your mind and tell what you think about something, asked or not? What are the first words out of your mouth? Go. If you said, well, I feel like, or, well, I think, or, I bet, I'm sorry, you get the gong. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules.
I'm with Dan.
If you're going to talk about how you feel at work, remember, nobody cares how you feel. Instead, what people care about and what adds value to the organization when you say it are going to be things that you have observed, things that you have found, things that you have discovered. I have to be conscious of always, when I open up my mouth, saying things that add value or contribute to the success of this organization or my team or my coworkers or my boss or the people around me. If what I'm saying contributes to their success or their growth, perfect. And what I'm feeling about what's going on will never do that. Instead, if I'm asked, for example,
What do you think about that idea?
And so I say something like, well, I just don't feel like it's the right direction for this organization.
Really?
Instead, remember these power phrases. I have observed, or I have found, or the data has shown. Anytime you're giving feedback or you're giving your opinion or your idea, which one adds more value to the organization? What you think? Or what you have found? Or what someone else has found? Or what you've observed? Or what the studies have shown? Or what your work has shown? Or what the past 15 years' experience have taught you? If your words add value, ipso facto, you add value and therefore become more valuable. And it's a great way to, when you're adding your opinion, not be seen as negative. Number 2, I don't like, that would be better. That's not good. To print out the infographic that goes along with this lesson, I'm putting the link in the description below. And remember, if you've taken some of my communication skills courses online, you know that visual cues are key. It will help you get better results. Remember again, when you are asked for your opinion, if you think something is good or not, it doesn't add value. If I were to say, I think that's a better idea. I think that's a better direction. I think they're a better candidate. Instead, say why. Always say why. That helps your words become more valuable. Instead of saying, for example,
Yeah, I just don't like the thought of debit cards. And our customers don't either. I think it'd be better if we could just stick with what we're doing.
If I were to instead say, well, I believe that the past couple of years of our beta testing has shown that sticking to the current plan would be more financially advantageous and more customer friendly. I'm just saying what the last couple of years has shown. Yeah, more financially advantageous. I said that. Don't say something is better. Because if you consistently do that, people will hear it as a bunch of blah, 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 blah. And even if you're not being negative, people will think you are. If instead you say, well, I believe this would be the answer because this has shown that it would be that. People will be like, I love their feedback. It's so useful. There you go. Anytime I'm asked what the problem is, why didn't I achieve a goal? If it's my boss or my supervisor who's asking me that, if this is an organization worth being in, when they ask me a question like, what do I perceive as the problem? One of the things they're looking for is to see how much responsibility do I take? The more I can take, the better. If I can take 100% responsibility all the time, perfect. Because when people ask us at work what we see as the problem, they've already prejudged it and they've already decided if they're a good leader or if they're a good supervisor or manager or have had any training and deserve to be where they are above us. They're thinking, I hope you know what this is all about you. I have to remember that when I'm dealing with people who are powerful or who are savvy and educated, they will notice how much personal responsibility I take. And in life and in everything that I've ever experienced, I know that any blame that I give to you is power I take from myself. Personal power can only come when you take personal responsibility for everything. So if I'm discussing challenges or things that happened, if someone else did it, if it's someone else's challenge, well, those I'm using the passive voice for. That work wasn't turned in on time. Unfortunately, there were some hurt feelings. Unfortunately, I think there were some mixed messages and maybe some misunderstandings. But when I'm talking about me, I was not able to get through to them. If I'm having a challenge with my manager, it's not because she blames me for everything. It's because I have not yet found a way to effectively communicate with her or him. If I lost a customer, it's not because they wouldn't stop yelling and screaming and they were insane. It's because I have not yet developed the skills to deal with customers like that, unfortunately. So next time, I will be better prepared. That's what everybody wants to hear. And it's the truth. And finally, this is number 4. If you ask questions like this, why would you, or do you really, or, I'm just wondering, how come? Hey, could you clarify for me? Remember, hostile questions or loaded questions. If you ask hostile questions or loaded questions, which are questions that are really statements thinly veiled in a question, for example, at home, don't use these at home. Remember, if you start asking your spouse questions like, what were you thinking when you did that? Or, do you really believe that blah, blah, blah was a smart thing to do? When we ask things like that, it is the beginning of the end of any relationship, unless we stop it. So I don't want people to think of me as being passive aggressive, which those questions embody. I want to instead, if I have something to say it and put a period. So for example, if I wanted to say to a coworker, why would you blame me for not getting your own work done? Instead, if I were to say, in the future, before you blame me in public for things, I would prefer that you come to me in private so that you can determine if the blame is properly placed. For example, today it wasn't, and I'm upset about that. Simple. Now I'm being very clear and direct with my language. Instead of saying, do you really think that was a good idea? I might say, Charlie, I see that you're taking Route A, and I have to tell you that I have found that Route B at this time of day would be a much wiser choice. I'm not going to tell you, do you really think this or do you really think that? I'll simply tell you what I have found. Take it and do with it what you will. And finally, many times people don't know that they're really getting set up to be the next fired at work when they are the ones who are known to be the ones who, fine, they'll go bring it up to the boss. Looks like no one else will. I don't have any problem saying things. I don't have any problem discussing it with the boss. I say what other people have problems saying. I ask the difficult questions. I'm about to be fired. I'm the next one in line to be out the door. You're the one that the bosses don't want to see coming in the door. You don't want to be that person. And one of the things that contributes to people not wanting you to walk through the door is if they know when you walk through the door, you're going to be asking them questions that are really none of your business, or that are loaded questions, or that are hostile questions. So instead of asking questions to your boss, that is not the correct protocol, and you're not following the proper rules of engagement when you as a subordinate are asking questions to your boss unless it is absolutely necessary. First of all, questions are generally annoying when they come from subordinates because generally our bosses have better things to do than to answer our questions. So if we have questions, we must ask ourselves 3 things first. Number 1, does this need to be asked? Number 2, does this need to be asked by me? And number 3, does this need to be asked by me right now? If any one of those answers would be a no, zip it. Do not ask questions that don't need to be asked by you right now. Better that we just save it for somebody else. Let somebody else be the big mouth at work. Let somebody else take that risk and not even know it. Let somebody else be the one who thinks, hey, I'm the one who says the things that other people just aren't brave enough or willing or savvy enough or assertive enough to say. I'll say it. I'm not afraid of our bosses. I'm not whoops, and they're the next ones out the door. So if you don't want to have one of those meetings where all of a sudden you find out that people don't like you or people are finding you difficult to work with, then don't do things like talk about what you feel at work. Don't talk about things that you don't like. Don't talk talk about that the problem is other people. And don't ask questions that really don't need to be asked, are really statements thinly veiled in questions, or inappropriate for you to ask. If you can just do those 4 things, it will dramatically increase the value that you have at work, and people will want to be around you more and want to work with you more, and supervisors and bosses will want you as their employee more, and they will want to work alongside of you when the next position for management opens up. And for more tips like this, check out this next video after you subscribe to this channel.